The difference between living a fantastic life and one that's just okay is often how we view the situations that we go through. Today, my sister and I will be talking about previous challenges we've encountered, from heartbreak to being lost in our 20s. We'll discuss the ways that perspective has improved our outlook. Along the way, we'll also teach you what you need to know about looking at your own challenges with a perspective that leads to growth. This episode is a good reminder and a good lesson on what perspective can do for you. My name is Ian.
And my name is Joey, and we're the hosts of Fantastic.
Welcome back. So today we're talking about perspective. And the reason why I wanted to discuss this was because recently I've been feeling really overwhelmed. And when I think about the challenges that I've encountered in the past, the one thing that's helped me was understanding how to use perspective to my advantage.
I feel like I'm learning this right now in therapy.
Yeah, tell me more.
I think I'll explain how I'm feeling with my therapist, like how I feel like I have a very negative, or not negative mindset, but I do spiral a lot. And she just reflects all my thoughts right back at me.
Yeah.
And it forces me to change my perspective because I start realizing, wait, that's actually a really unreasonable way of thinking about things.
Yeah. Do you have a specific example of that one?
I think recently I was really worried. I had to go to like 3 different locations in one day. And I got so stressed because I was like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to get from place A to place B and have all this energy? And now I have to tell my boss that I can't actually make it to place A.
Yeah.
And he's going to be so mad. Like, I was just going through like all
Was
the
this when you
emotions.
went to Adobe Max?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going through all the emotions and I was so stressed just thinking about it. And then I like remembered what my therapist and I do, which is just to think about what happens. And she was like, so that's the worst case scenario? I think that's okay, right? And she's just like repeating everything back. And I was like, okay, I actually sound crazy.
Yeah.
And things ended up going well. And I think it taught me that like I do have a tendency to spiral, but it's not necessarily positive. And I could always think of myself as spiraling as like me just preparing myself for the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily a bad thing. I feel like when I think of me spiraling, it's just a negative thing. But when I think of it from the perspective of, oh, my mind is just trying to protect me and is just trying to be cautious, I feel a little bit better.
Yeah. So in that way, you're kind of changing your perspective on how you view kind of the tendencies that you have. And I think when we're talking about like mental health, self-confidence, and all that jazz, like a huge like foundational level of thing that you need to know is like how to think about perspective, or at least like how to view perspective. And recently when I was scrolling down TikTok, I saw this really exceptional quote, and it says, quote, "Everything is a win when the goal is experience," unquote.
Yeah,
Have you seen those?
I think I have seen that one. I think they were walking on a mountain.
Yeah, it's like usually very inspirational, and it's a picture of a waterfall, and it's super nice and super cute, and they're just like, everything is a win when it's an experience, but it's never like any struggles. You know, I kind of want to see that TikTok when you have like cracked eggs on the floor and you're like, fuck, everything is a win, you know?
Wait, that happened to me earlier this week. I cracked 3 eggs and I was like,
Fuck. Wait,
I don't
on the
know.
floor?
Yes,
Word.
they just rolled.
Gotcha. Anyway, so yeah, we were thinking about that. And the reason why I think it's like super important is because life is freaking hard, right? Like the number one thing that doesn't change is how much things change.
Yes.
And I think the other thing too is that the number one thing that always happens is that life will give you problems. Like it'll throw you with challenges, and Joey and I have had our own fair share of challenges. And when I think of a challenge, something important is that when you've already gone through a challenge, typically in my mind, I see myself going 2 different ways. It's almost like there's a fork in the road, you know, where Robert Frost was like, the road less traveled, you know what I mean? Like
Yes,
where it's
yes.
like 2 diverging paths, and you get to choose which one you can take. The first kind of option is you can take the road of negative helplessness, right? Like let's say if your cat died,
Okay.
you can decide to have negative helplessness. And again, this is after the situation has already happened. I'm not talking about toxic positivity here. Or you can go down a path of growth. And I think today what we want to talk about is how do you go down that path of growth instead of the one that's negative helplessness.
Yes.
And the other reason why I think this is important and important to bring up now is because, like, as we're growing up, the problems that we're going to be encountering are going to be different than the ones that we've already encountered. And so it's good to like understand the fundamentals of how do you look at a situation with new perspective that allows you to grow as a person. So we have three different questions that you can ask yourself when you're going through a specific challenge, particularly when you just finished a challenge, so that way you can look at that situation with a new outlook. So the first question to ask yourself is, what can this teach me about myself? And I wanted to jump into this question by talking about my quarter life crisis. So recently, earlier this year, I'm 26. I had a late quarter life crisis. But I did feel kind of lost, where I was like super depressed almost. Honestly, it lasted months, where I felt really isolated. I felt really lost. And it took me forever to kind of process everything and get out of that rut. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I wasn't confident in what I was doing. I didn't know if I was making the right choices. And so it was a really challenging aspect of my year.
That sounds really negative.
Yeah, no, for sure. It really sucked. Right? Now looking back at it, right? I think like because it happened and now I processed it and like I kind of figured out how to understand myself a little bit better. It's the perfect opportunity to again choose which path on that fork in the road you want to go towards. One, I could have been like negative, spiraling out, like helplessness, or I could have gone to the road of like growth.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to like this perspective shift of asking myself of what this can teach me about myself, I learned a lot, right? Because it sucks that I had to go through that. Like honestly, it sucks that I had to spend days just like crying in bed and like isolating myself. And I didn't tell anyone that that was happening to me, even though in the outside it might have looked like I was having like a really fun and happy, fulfilling life, right? In private, I was like sad. I was like very lost. And it sucks that I went through that. But because now that I look back at that experience, reflecting on what it taught me about myself, it makes the whole experience so much more digestible, so much better.
So, are you saying that usually when you shift your perspective, it happens post event?
It doesn't have to happen post event, but I think what I'm saying is that when you go through challenges, you learn something about yourself. Just because you change your perspective doesn't mean that the situation magically gets better.
Or gets different?
Or gets different, right? Like to give you an example about like a dead cat, just because you shift your perspective on the dead cat doesn't mean that your cat isn't dead. So the idea here is that when you've gone through a specific challenge or struggle, that you can look back at those things knowing that you gained something out of it. And one of those things is that like you learn something new about who you are.
Can I ask you what you learned about yourself?
Absolutely. What I learned was that like I need to be more nuanced with my emotions. I was talking to my therapist and they were just like, yeah, you have a specific way that you solve problems and you have a specific plan and a strategy and you usually have specific goals. And so you tackle on your problems, doing your strategies, and you're hoping that the solution will just come. This time, I used the normal kind of tactics that I use of how to make myself feel better, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, why isn't it not working? And the fact that it just wasn't working made it worse. And so when I really stepped back at my quarter life crisis and like examining who I want to be for the next, 75 years, I was like, oh, I'm like actually way more complex than I thought I was. And I also need to give myself the space for those emotions. And so instead of me just being like, my definition of success is making money, it's like, well, now my definition of success is like building a community and building something that I can contribute to my like actual neighborhood. Right. But that was like very nuanced. And I was like, fuck, that's so complicated.
Yeah.
But because I had to go through that whole struggle, I've accepted that aspect of myself and understand myself a little bit better.
Yeah, because you shift your perspective, I feel like you're starting to lack nuance on your emotions. For me, it's definitely the thing I had mentioned earlier, where I used to think that like me thinking of the worst case scenario was just me thinking of the worst case scenario and freaking myself out. But talking to my therapist and them telling me a different perspective,
Yeah.
in the sense that like I'm just trying to protect myself and it's a way of me caring for myself,
Mm-hmm.
it shifted my perspective case scenario in the sense that I'm like, oh, okay, it's not actually me just doing something negative
Yeah.
and having negative tendencies. It's like it actually comes from a place of I care for myself, I'm protecting myself, and next time I do think of a worst case scenario, I'm not necessarily going to 100% believe it'll happen, but I'll just know that, oh, I'm preparing myself for if this happens, which it usually doesn't. And I think it makes me feel a little bit better about how my mind works.
The next question you could ask yourself when you've gone through something is, how can this help me improve my relationship with others? And how can this help me grow to be more empathetic?
What was the worst breakup you went through, and how did that help you learn about
No,
your
yeah, for sure.
relationship?
We're going to get into that one. I was going to actually talk about me getting bullied, but I can talk about heartbreak as well.
Oh, okay. Hell
So
yeah.
I would say that, like, yeah, for sure. Heartbreak sucks. Getting broken up with, not a good feeling. And, you know, when you're going through that, honestly, I've gotten my fair share of heartbreaks, and that sucks. I know one when I was like just crying. There's one that I always like to reference because it's such a vivid memory. I woke up, I got out of bed, I went inside my closet with all of my clothes hanging so that no one can hear me cry.
The dampening?
Yeah, and then I called her. And I was like,
Whoa, after the breakup?
I called her. I broke no contact after
Oh
the
my
first day.
goodness. And then what did that teach you?
I think it taught me so much. It's chat, it taught me so much. The first thing I think it taught me was that, like, one, being in a relationship is actually so precious. In the sense that, like, one, knowing if I knew that we were gonna break up, then I would have cherished the relationship more. That sounds
Damn,
really
that
bad.
sounds
That sounds
cliche.
so bad. But it's also like now I'm kind of like when I'm with someone, I'm like, well, this could end. And so I'm going to enjoy today as much as I can.
Honestly, I agree. Okay, I know that you said that sounded bad, but I completely understand you. Like, me and my friend right now are currently in a state of, we'll be laughing and we'll be like, man, this is so nice, huh? Like, mid conversation and
You're like,
mid
hey,
laugh.
man, these are the days.
Like, when we're sending each other memes, bro, you just get me. And it's like, why are we reminiscing?
Yeah.
But it's also
I
because
think it's good.
I feel like I've had experiences where I've had friendship breakups and yeah, sorry, not romantic ones, but friendship breakups where like I'll think, oh my god, that really did come to an end.
Yeah.
And now I'll like listen to a song and I'll think of them.
I think okay, yeah, like it teaches you something, right? Like
Yeah.
having gone through like a breakup, it taught me so much that this could be like a whole ass episode in itself.
Yeah.
I would say like one of the number one things that it taught me was you don't play with people's feelings. That shit, like don't go into a relationship and if you're not serious about it.
I feel like it's really easy to think that when you break up, it's like, oh, this is awful. Now I'm spiraling.
Yeah.
This is the worst thing. I should have never gotten into that relationship.
Yeah.
But because having that perspective of like, these were the good old days that I never cherished. It's like, now I know.
Now
I'm
you
going to cherish those
yeah.
days.
Oddly enough, it reminds me of this TikTok where they asked the Filipino girl, they're like, what's your secret talent? She goes, my talent is building up guys for other women. And I was like, word.
Oh.
You know? And I feel like that too, where I'm like, the next person gets a better version of my past self.
Yeah.
You know, I learn how to communicate better.
Yeah.
I know how to like be a better gentleman. I know how to like take care of people better, you know? But all of that had to happen. All of that happened because we broke up.
Yeah.
And it like
because you
forced me
went-
to reflect.
Because you went through something, I guess, technically bad.
Yeah. The one I wanted to talk about, which is valid, I talked about the breaking up one, was like I used to get bullied in school. And I think I could look back on my experience on that and be like, damn, I freaking hate those kids. And which I did. I freaking hated those kids. Still do. Freaking still. No, I'm playing. I don't hate them anymore. But I used to live in an elementary school who it was like predominantly Hispanic. And I was like the only Asian kid in any of my classes. And so I would get bullied when I was like little. And like I could look back at that and be like, I hate that shit. Like the fuck. You know?
Okay.
But now I'm like, hey, now I know not to bully people.
Okay, so what I feel like that kind of almost can get really toxic positivity in the sense where you're trying to look for the good in everything.
Yeah.
But how do you like differentiate this from like toxic positivity of you being like I
I
guess
think toxic positivity is more like, hey, just be happy.
okay.
Hey, just cheer up. What
Like
I'm saying here is like, how can you take the situations that you've already encountered?
Mhm.
You can't fucking change that, right? I can't change the fact that I was bullied.
I'm not mad, guys, but I
I'm
can't
not,
fucking
I can't- you know what I mean? But then how can I look at that situation, even if it's like years from now or days from when it happened, and be like, how does this serve me?
Mm.
And I think in this case, it was like, well, now I know what that feels like, what it feels like to be bullied. Another thing, I remember when I was in college, I was at the end of a very bad rumor.
Okay.
And now I'm like, fuck, I know how that feels like. That shit sucks.
So you don't want to start any rumors.
So I don't want to start any rumors. Or if a rumor does come to me, I'll be like, give me the facts, yo.
Yeah, I
Give me
think
their sides. Give me his side. Give me her side. You know, like,
Yeah, yeah.
what's up?
yeah, I don't know. I think you saying that gives you perspective on how you want to treat other people and give other people grace before you make those judgments that you had once
Yeah.
experienced.
Yeah. And like, obviously, all of these things, nobody should be bullied. Nobody should be at the end of the rumor.
Wait,
Hello?
speak on it?
Speak on that? Speak on that? You know, no professor. Like nobody should feel that way, but life is gonna happen the way that it happens. And so if it's gonna happen, might as well try to figure out how to like grow from that thing.
Mhm.
You know?
My example for this would be my friend had randomly ghosted me,
Okay.
and I remember I was so confused, and I did all the steps where you try to communicate, reach out to the person.
What are the steps?
Where you like give them some space.
You look at a WikiHow? Yeah.
Hey, don't share my secrets.
Mm-hmm.
But like you give them some space, and then you like maybe you're like you gotta let them cool off first. They haven't changed yet. You ask them what's up. So I
Okay.
asked them what's up, and they said nothing. Nothing was up. So I was like, okay, I'll go with that because I've communicated with them that I think there's an issue between us, but I don't know what it is. So I'm hoping you tell me. All this to say, I did get ghosted, and then she dropped me, right? And I got really hurt and really sad. And I think like I could have just like been really sad and stuck with that, right?
Yeah.
And thought like, gosh, this is the worst. But instead of doing that, I feel like I just focused on how I have other friends who are not treating me that way and how I shouldn't be treating people like that. And that like,
Yeah.
this is just one friend who did this to me and wronged me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the end of the world, even though I was close to them.
Like you were like, oh, okay, so that's how that feels.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like a big, oh, okay. So that's why I'm never gonna, like, even if someone says, oh my God, they were talking shit about you, you talked shit about me first.
Huh?
That's how that feels. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think I just learned that there were certain friends who, like, still stuck by me, even though they had heard rumors about me. And I was like, oh, I appreciate those friends who decided to come to me and ask me.
Yeah.
And now, like, when I do hear, like, a argument or, like, a rumor between two people, and that like two people have beef, I feel like if I'm curious enough and really care, I'll just go up to the person and ask them instead of just believing what other people say. Because
Yeah.
I was personally hurt when other people just believed what the other person said when I was like, I hadn't done any of those things.
Yeah, exactly. Like it makes you more empathetic
Mhm.
because you're like, oh shit, I've experienced that.
Yeah.
You know? And again, these are like after the fact things where like we're not hoping that this happens to you. But if it does, you'll learn you'll learn from it, you know? Okay, the last one is what lessons can this teach me about the future and similar situations? I have a really goofy example for this one.
Please do tell.
Is when I was in high school, my friend and I were sitting at this bench. We were waiting for the bus and we were at the mall. And a couple of guys who were much older than we were like circling us. First it was one person, then it was two people. And again, we're still waiting at the bus. It's like at nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, in my head, again, I was like, hey, I don't want to assume the worst in people. I was just trying to be like hashtag positive. No, but then one of the guys like grabbed my friend's bag from the bench where she had like left it and then started running. And it had her laptop and her purse and like all her school shit and like ran.
Oh my God.
And I chased after and I also ran, but then they like went across like a busy street and I was like, okay, I'm not going to die, you know?
Yeah,
But
word.
I tried. And in that way, it really taught me about not to do that.
Not to do what?
Like
Not to rob people?
you know, not to like be foolish. If you think a situation is suspicious, like hold on to your shit, you
Yeah.
know? Like it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like it's like a little bit of a
No, Noted.
I should. They were kind of like side eyeing me. They were kind of like circling us. Why didn't I do anything?
Yeah.
You know. But now I know. That wasn't the first time that's happened.
Oh my god.
Remember the other time when my brother and I were walking home, and then a bunch of high school guys, we were in middle school, a bunch of high school guys like circled us, and then like they took our money. Experiences like this allow you to look at it and be like, that sucked. Either I'm gonna look at that situation and be like, dang, that sucks, I'm a victim, which again I was, right?
Yes.
Or you could be like, I should bring pepper spray next time.
Yeah, I guess it just like teaches you how to do stuff better in the future. But the other going down the spiraling negative road would just be, that freaking sucked. I hate that. But
Yeah.
if you take nothing out of it, then you kind of experience that for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of just like you could take that situation and be like, my life sucks. Like this shit happens to me all the time. Yada, 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 you know? Which things do happen. It takes time for you to process stuff. But like ultimately, there can be a silver lining.
Yeah.
Right? Like the other thing where it's like, earlier this year, I got like a parking ticket for like $63.
Okay.
Lesson learned. Not gonna park there no more. You know what I mean? Thank you for the lesson. It was an expensive lesson, but now I know. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Hashtag perspective.
I love that. We're just kind of airing out all of these terrible things that have happened.
I know.
Inconveniences.
Actually terrible. Do you have anything?
I think as you were talking about it, it reminded me of how I have a tendency to like forget things when I'm on the train.
Uh-huh.
Not on the train, but like I take the train and I realize, holy shit, I forgot my shit, you know, at home. So that I could have just constantly kept going, never taken any lesson out of that, you know, continuously live my life forgetting stuff at home once I'm on the train. But then something shifted in me.
Right.
Now I have to write a to-do list or like a checklist of what to bring.
Low-key, this has happened more than once though, right?
Yeah, it took a couple times to learn that lesson, just as you got robbed.
Yeah, my bad. Okay. Touche.
Yeah, so I think I did have to learn the lesson multiple times for me to realize that I actually do have a problem of forgetting things.
Yeah.
First time I thought it was just an accident. Second time, okay, maybe it
Yeah.
was just a really busy day. Third time, okay, I'm fucked. I need to actually start writing to-do lists. It did happen a fourth time and a fifth time, but now I still write to-do lists and I am getting better.
Yeah.
But see how I found that silver lining?
Right, and you shifted.
That perspective.
The last example that I wanted to talk about in regards to lessons that teach me about the future, a more serious one, low-key. A more serious one is the feeling that I got when I got rejected to all the colleges that I applied to when I was in high school. That one stung. Because I remember everyone getting their college acceptances into like UC Berkeley, Santa Cruz, NYU, you know, some Ivy Leagues, right? And they're like, Ian, yours is going to come. When? I remember my friend getting into USC, and that's like my dream school. I eventually transferred, by the way. I'm not spiteful. But I remember USC usually gives like a really thick box. And I remember I did not get a thick box. I got like a small envelope. And I was like,
Yes, I remember this.
Yeah, and I remember like, uh-oh. I was like,
An unsettling feeling.
yeah, I was like really sad because it was like my dream school. And I think like at the time, I was like devastated. I like cried so much. I remember like thinking, I was like, holy shit, I'm a fucking failure. Like, this is like actually tragic. My whole future is going down the drain. Like, this shit sucks. And eventually it didn't suck. Like, I'm okay. But the one thing that it taught me was, hey, like, actually lock in.
Oh, okay.
You know, I think like that taught me that I can actually regret my actions. You know, where I was like, I felt like I was doing everything correctly, but I definitely could have tried more. You know, like all of my friends who did get into like Berkeley, who did get into like UCLA, I would be like, oh, like they're just like fucking studying way too much.
Yeah.
You know, where I was like kind of chilling like a villain, and I thought I had everything understood. Now that that's kind of happened, it was like a damn, that sucked. But at least it taught me that like, hey, actually lock in when you need to lock in. Otherwise, that might happen again. right? It's not gonna happen in that same fashion. I'm not applying to colleges, and like in high school, it's different because everyone is applying to colleges.
And
So
everyone gets their
exactly,
acceptances or
and everyone
rejections.
gets their acceptances. But now in life, it's kind of just like your life is just gonna go where it goes,
Hmm.
and you'll see your friends' life like skyrocket in terms of like their version of success, whereas yours kind of just fizzles out. You
Yeah.
know, I don't want to be the person that fizzles out,
Hmm.
and so that's why I was like, okay, I'm glad that happened. Not noted.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think that situation was actually so negative or could be taken as like
Yeah.
you hate the world.
I could have
Get
spiraled out of that shit.
Yeah.
Like I could have looked at that and been like, I'm actually so fucking stupid. But then
Yes.
I chose not to.
Yeah, you just chose to lock in. I also think another thing you could have done, not just saying like you're stupid, but also just get really mad and angry at everyone else who got rejection or who
Yeah.
got acceptances. But I think in this case your perspective shift was more like I need to focus more on myself instead of
Yeah.
paying attention to everyone else
100%.
and
I definitely
talking.
could have been like, oh, like they don't deserve it, you know, like why let them in and not me, you know? But I was like, oh, it's my fault, my own doing. And so like I always look back at that experience and I remember that feeling well because it just like it reminded me that like, hey, I actually need to start trying.
Yeah.
Like there are moments that will happen where it's like you either get it or you don't. And I want to be the person that gets it. And in order for me to do that, I have to be the one that like studies. I have to work hard. I have to like just do it every day, you know. And that was like really important. So that's our episode.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's our episode. The whole thing is just to tell you that shifting your perspective won't fix your challenges. Like we mentioned, just because I shift my perspective on how I view that rejection doesn't mean that I'm magically going to go to Harvard. That's not how that works. This episode isn't about me saying that just because you shift your perspective that things will naturally get better. This is about how perspective can help you gain something from a really tough situation. Whether that's something that you learn about yourself, that you learn about situations that you can apply to the future, or that can help you understand other people because you've already gone through that similar situation. That's what this episode is about. The other thing that I kind of wanted to remind people is that sometimes life is actually just so fucking hard and there genuinely isn't an upside, and that sometimes life is filled with tragedy. But in trying to find the silver lining and figuring out how to look at challenges after the fact allows you to be more confident in how you approach life.
Hmm.
Knowing that life is like actually so challenging and will throw challenges at you left and right, knowing that you were able to look at those situations and be like, okay, let me change my perspective and find what the positives might be, allows you to be more fearless in living life.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
And so like that's what this episode is about. So if you're comfortable, feel free to comment below on the challenge that you've experienced that you can kind of shift your perspective on and share it with the rest of our community. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our other videos. And this one talks about insecurities and how they ruin your friendship. My name is Ian.
My name is Joey, and that's all for today. Bye.
Bye. See you next week.